Have you ever felt that your husband or wife cares more about other people's problems than your own? What should you do if a family friend starts to ruin your marriage? Today, I want to share a story that will make you think about boundaries in relationships and how important it is to say stop at the right moment. Listen up. It's going to be interesting. A triangle without betrayal. That evening, I came home later than usual. Chris was already waiting for me when I finally unlocked the door. He came out to greet me as if nothing had happened, but one look at my face told him a storm was coming. "Hey, why are you so angry?" he asked. "Seriously? You're really asking?" I replied through clenched teeth. "Well, I can see you're not in the mood. And why do you think that is?" "I have no idea." "What's wrong now?" my husband asked, annoyed. "Did you forget something? Maybe you promised me something today? Maybe you didn't do something." Chris tried to remember, but nothing came to mind. "I don't think I forgot anything." "Oh, really? So you didn't promise to leave the car for me today?" And then it hit him. I had told him the night before that I really needed his car the next day. I was planning to go to the hospital during my lunch break, and I knew I wouldn't make it on time by bus or even by taxi. And yes, he promised, but why are you silent? Damn, I'm sorry. I totally forgot when Laura called me. Laura? I was even more surprised. Yeah, she called first thing in the morning. She asked me to take her and Martin to the clinic. He's getting his teeth fixed. And you decided that some other kid's teeth are more important than my health? I concluded. No, I just forgot you warned me last night. If I had remembered, You what? Would you have said no to her? Seriously? Why do I feel like you never say no when it comes to Laura? I kept going. You're exaggerating. No, I think I've been downplaying it for too long. You drive her for groceries to the hospital, to her parents, everywhere. Do you even realize she has a husband? Cynthia, come on. You know Laura is a family friend. A family friend? Do you even know what that means? It's when the whole family is friends with someone. I'm not friends with her. We barely talk. I can't call her my friend, let alone a family friend. Or is our family just you? Chris understood that I had a reason to be upset, but he still didn't like the situation. My car had been in the shop for a week, which is why I asked to use his. Even though he didn't love the idea of me driving his car, he didn't refuse. But in the end, he didn't actually let me use it. It was awkward, and he still felt like I was blowing things out of proportion. Since when are Laura and Bill not our friends? For example, since we almost stopped talking. I haven't seen Bill in over a year, even though they live in the same city as us. Laura doesn't visit or call either. At least not me. But she calls you all the time, right? And texts too. Not that often. It's not my fault Bill is so unreliable. Why would he change if other men are always running around doing everything his wife asks? I'm not running around after her. Chris protested. Oh, really? Last month you almost took out a loan for her, remember? Well, I didn't. Yeah, because I forbade you. What kind of friendship is that? Cynthia, you know they already have too many loans. And I don't care. If they can't live within their means, that's not my problem. I said, offended. They have 2 kids. It's hard for them. Hard? Really? Hard to live without a new iPhone? Or did they desperately need a new TV? Or did they redo the kitchen just for the kids? Or maybe they bought a new car for the family's convenience. Maybe they did. Chris muttered. They bought a coupe. Who buys a coupe with 2 kids? Why do you have this silly habit of counting other people's money? I didn't, until I realized their crazy spending could affect our family's finances. Oh yes, I still remember with a shudder the day I accidentally found the messages between Laura and Chris, where she was trying to convince him to take out a loan for them. She said the banks had refused, and she tried to assure him they would pay it back themselves. Chris didn't deny it. It was his fault for not closing the chat. Otherwise, maybe I'd never have found out. I just opened the laptop, and the conversation was right there, staring into my soul. That day, we had a huge fight. He tried to convince me it was no big deal, but I wouldn't listen. I even threatened that if he took out that loan, we'd get divorced. Chris and I didn't have kids yet, but we were planning to. That's why I needed to go to the hospital today, to pick up some test results and consult with the doctor again. Of course I went, but I had to call a taxi. By the time the car arrived, took me there, and brought me back, I was late for work and got a scolding from my boss. That's why I was so mad at my husband. I could have gotten there much faster myself. It might not seem like a big deal, but looking back at everything that had happened, I started to get really angry at Chris. This family friend was driving me crazy. I'd kept quiet for a long time, tried not to fight with my husband, but now I just couldn't hold it in anymore. Cynthia, I'm sorry. I know this turned out badly, but I really just forgot. Call the boss and tell him that. I almost got fired today. I exaggerated a bit. You know, if Laura is such a great family friend, maybe she can have a baby for us? She seems to be good at it. She already has two. You know you're talking nonsense, right? Chris asked, a bit calmer now. I know, but I'm tired of all this. This is the last time you let me down because of her. Got it? If it happens again, we'll have a very different conversation. What do you mean again? When have I ever let you down or hurt you because of Laura? That never happened. Chris insisted, but from my face, he could tell he was about to hear a lot more. I even refused to have dinner. I completely lost my appetite. I really wanted Chris to finally understand that this so-called family friend was just using him. I could almost feel that Laura couldn't stand me, though I never really understood why. I told my husband this directly, but he just brushed it off, saying I was imagining things and that he didn't want to get involved in women's drama. Women's drama? As if I was dying to hang out with Laura and her husband. No, they were Chris's friends from the start. He brought them into our lives. He pushed this friendship. Of course, I was partly to blame. I should have said from the beginning that I didn't like these people. Actually, I did say it, but he replied, "You just don't know them well enough. Once you get to know them, you'll like them." It's been years since then, and I still don't like them. It took a lot of effort and nerves to distance that family from us. Maybe Laura's just getting back at me now because they can't come over every weekend and relax at our expense anymore? Who knows? And now Chris claimed this was just a one-time thing? Sometimes I felt like my husband became deaf, blind, and especially forgetful whenever it came to Laura. The funny thing was he barely talked to Bill anymore, even though he used to call him a friend, but he kept texting with Bill's wife. Honestly, I often saw their messages and knew that Laura was usually the one to start the conversation. If I'm being fair, there was nothing inappropriate in those chats, except for Laura's endless complaints about her husband and her constant requests for little favors. Oh, and it really annoyed me that she always sent my husband kissy emojis, but it seemed silly to get mad over such things. So never. I challenged my husband. Never, he said confidently. What about last New Year's? What about it? You promised to be home by 6 to help me clean the apartment. We invited your parents over, remember? What time did you get home? Where were you? Chris winced. Of course he remembered. He got home at 9, after his parents had already arrived. And yes, he'd gone with Laura to buy a Christmas tree for her kids because Bill got stuck at work. What was the big deal? He still remembered how mad I was when I found out where he'd been. Cynthia, what was I supposed to do? Leave the kids without a tree for New Year's? Who buys a tree at the last minute? People who want to save money. You know prices drop on the 31st. Great, Laura saved a few bucks. And I had to clean the whole apartment and cook a ton of food by myself. That's just how it happened. I apologized. Great. You apologized. Should I bow down to you for that? Maybe tomorrow you'll sleep with her and then say, sorry, it just happened. I didn't mean to. I said sarcastically. What nonsense. I'm not sleeping with her. She's just a friend. Yeah, a family friend. I've heard that before. Are you really that clueless? Or just pretending? Oh, so now we're at the insult stage? Chris said ironically. No, just stating facts. Chris, there's no such thing as friendship between a man and a woman. In your case, she's just using you. Knowing you'll do anything for a few kind words and a mysterious smile. Sometimes I feel like you're not even married. Or are you unhappy with me? Right now, I'm not very happy, he said, offended. Yeah, because we're fighting. And not because I messed up, but because you did. Remember how our trip to the beach got ruined because of them? Did you forget? Yeah, that was another unpleasant story. And Chris remembered it well. It wasn't a pretty situation. We had planned a trip, already booked a cabin at a beach resort, even paid a deposit. We shared our excitement with our friends, told them about our plans, and then Laura said, why pay extra? We're going on vacation in 2 weeks too. We'll stay at my aunt's place. Why don't you come with us? You'll save money on accommodation. Chris loved the idea. It wasn't really about saving money. He just liked the thought of vacationing with friends. It's always more fun in a group. I whispered to him that I didn't want to go, but he just said, don't worry, it'll be fun. I had to cancel our reservation and we never got our deposit back, even though it wasn't much. We spent 2 weeks planning the new trip, but 2 days before we were supposed to leave, Laura called upset and said it was off. Too many relatives had shown up at her aunt's, and there was no room for us. I was shocked. I tried calling the beach resort where we'd booked the cabin, but no one answered or called me back. Maybe they even blocked my number. Who needs such unreliable clients? The funniest part? 2 weeks later, Laura and Bill went to her aunt's anyway, but we couldn't go. Our vacation time wasn't flexible, it was over. So we never made it to the beach as we'd planned. Our mood was ruined. Sure, we could have gone somewhere for a couple of days, but Chris, happy that we didn't have to pay for accommodation, quickly found a use for the extra money, and with what was left, we could only afford a cheap hotel 20 minutes from the beach. Not the vacation I dreamed of all year. I got so upset I said I wasn't going anywhere. No, I didn't forget, Chris replied. But you know Laura wasn't to blame for that. Of course, she's never to blame. She's an angel, and everyone else is just selfish. Chris winced, remembering that once he'd even complained to the family friend about me, saying I was begging him to buy me a fur coat on credit. He hated debt, but I really wanted that coat. In the end, we never bought it, but in that chat, Laura actually called me selfish. The thought that I'd seen that message made Chris uncomfortable. Cynthia, can we stop fighting? I already apologized. Chris pleaded, realizing that if we kept going, nothing good would come of it. No, we're not done. Thanks for the apology, but the problem isn't solved. What if tomorrow or next year I need you to pick me up from the hospital, but Laura calls or texts and you run off to help her instead? I asked, frustrated. First of all, you're not even pregnant. Second, I wouldn't. Chris snapped. Maybe I'm not pregnant because I don't feel secure with my man. You know, body and soul are connected. Maybe my body won't let a baby stay because I don't feel your support. Tell me, do you even want a child? Chris looked at me, hurt. He thought I was going too far. He knew I already knew the answer. I just turned 30 and he was 5 years older. We'd been married for over 7 years, had our time together, set up our life. We both wanted a little one in the family. You know I do, Chris said. Chris, do you realize that just wanting isn't enough? You have to actually do something about it sometimes. And no, I'm not talking about our sex life, that's fine. I mean something else. I can't understand why when I needed your help, you forgot or ignored me. But when she needs something, you're there in a heartbeat. Am I not important to you? He could see how hurt and angry I was, but Chris still didn't understand why I was making such a big deal out of it. He wanted to calm me down, but didn't know what else to say. He was tired of fighting. Cynthia, you're the most important person to me. Then why don't I feel it? Don't you see that your family friend is coming between us? You'll have to choose me or her. You talk like she's my lover, not just a friend. I'm saying this because I know where this kind of friendship can lead. What's the deal anyway? Doesn't she have her own husband? Or has Bill just given up on the family and stopped helping? I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a while. Don't you think that's strange? I asked. You used to be friends with Bill and now you're friends with his wife? And it's not even real friendship. All she does is complain to you about her husband, who, by the way, is your friend. Has the world gone crazy? She doesn't just complain. Oh yeah? What else do you talk about? The weather? Mutual friends? The problems of the universe? You should reread your chats. There's nothing but whining. Or are you secretly hoping she'll leave Bill and be with you? I asked sarcastically. What nonsense. I don't want her. I love you. Really? Because this morning I felt something completely different. Whatever, I'm tired of fighting. We'll continue this another time. Or maybe we won't continue at all? So you'll just stop talking to her? You won't help her or solve her problems anymore. Chris frowned but said nothing. He was tired of arguing too. He just came over, kissed me on the cheek, and went to the bedroom. Maybe it was time to think about all this. I wasn't satisfied with how the conversation ended. I desperately wanted to come up with something that would finally put an end to this strange friendship. Laura was really starting to get on my nerves. Sometimes I even thought about telling Chris to just leave. That thought scared me because I still loved my husband. If it weren't for all this weirdness with Laura, Chris was a good man and a good husband. Life with him was warm and comfortable. I didn't want to ruin our family over some silly woman who thought she was the queen of Brooklyn. And then suddenly I had an idea. I smiled. Strange that I hadn't thought of it before. Chris was glued to his laptop watching some video. Making sure he was busy, I went to the kitchen, closed the door, and called Bill. Hey Bill, how's it going? I said when he picked up. Hey, Cynthia, is something wrong? He sounded surprised. No, I just have a favor to ask. Can you help me out? Well, tell me what you need, and I'll see what I can do. Bill laughed. Remember how you used to do renovations? I want to put up a stretch ceiling in the living room. Can you help? What kind do you want? I haven't decided yet. Maybe you can help me choose? You know more about this stuff. Why don't you come over tomorrow or whenever you can? We'll talk it over, go buy the materials, and then do the ceiling on the weekend or whenever you're free. I was so enthusiastic that Bill was a bit taken aback. Wait, Cynthia, you probably forgot that Chris and I used to do renovations together. Is he out of town or something? No, he's home. Where else would he be? So why don't you ask him? He knows more about this than I do. Come on, Bill, is it so hard to help me out? I'm asking you. Cynthia, what am I supposed to tell Chris? That I'm helping his wife while he just stands by? That's kind of weird, don't you think? I think so. Do you? Yeah, it's a little crazy. If you guys weren't married or were divorced, maybe, but... Bill, maybe you should ask your wife not to ask my Chris for help with things you could do for her yourself. I said matter-of-factly. He went silent, thinking over my words. Wait, are you saying Laura asks Chris for help? For help? She never leaves him alone. Drive her here, pick her up there, take out a loan, help with this or that. How much is enough? Cynthia, are you sure you're not exaggerating? He asked. Don't believe me? Ask Chris, or better yet, ask your wife. Or just read their messages. I'm tired of it. She has her own husband. Please sort it out, okay? Bill could tell from my tone that I wasn't joking. He was clearly surprised but promised. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. And thanks for telling me, he said and hung up. I covered my mouth to keep from laughing out loud. Why hadn't I done this before? Maybe he really didn't know what was going on. I went to the bedroom, trying not to show that anything had happened. I kissed Chris on the shoulder and sat down next to him. What are you watching? Just a replay of yesterday's game. I missed it last night. Oh, okay. I'll go take a bath then. Did you eat? Yeah, there's some pasta and chicken left for you. Go ahead and eat. Maybe later. Thanks. I replied with a smile, imagining how mad he'd be when he found out what I'd done. And Chris found out pretty soon. I was lying in a hot bath, listening to my favorite song, when suddenly, instead of music, I started hearing the annoying sound of incoming messages. 1, 2, 3. After the fourth, I couldn't resist. I dried my hands, grabbed my phone, and opened the app. Laura had sent me several voice messages. Forgetting that the sound was coming through the speaker, I played the first one, and immediately heard her shrill voice fill the bathroom. What did you tell my Bill? Who asked you to call him? If you call him again, I'll break your fingers so you can't press any buttons. I just smiled in surprise. Before I could turn off the speaker, Chris knocked on the bathroom door. What's going on in there? He asked. You can come in and see for yourself, I replied calmly. Chris came into the bathroom. He usually likes seeing me in the tub, but right now he was more concerned about what was happening. He'd heard Laura screeching from the bedroom and didn't understand what was going on. I pressed play on the second message. Why are you silent? Call him and tell him nothing happened. Do you want us to get divorced because of you, you stupid chicken? Then came the third. Nobody wants your Chris. Who do you think you are? Who gave you the right to interfere in our family? I didn't really want to listen to the fourth message, but I pressed play anyway, watching Chris's frown deepen. Give me the phone. Bill shouted. It's my phone. Laura screamed, and I could hear the sounds of a struggle before the connection cut off. I stayed silent, just looking at my husband and smiling slightly. He kept frowning, but he was starting to figure out what had happened. Are you going to explain? He asked. It's nothing. I just asked Bill to help me with the stretch ceiling. Did we want a stretch ceiling? Chris was surprised. Not really. So why? So he'd rein in his wife. What else could I do? You won't listen to me. I'm not going to divorce you. Turns out, a ceiling can solve problems. I briefly told him about my conversation with Bill. Chris wasn't thrilled, but he didn't argue. Deep down, he knew I was right. Lately, Laura had been asking for too much, sometimes even demanding. Chris, why are you so quiet? I asked. She has her own husband, you know? Yeah, I know. I don't even know how it got to this point. Want me to tell you? Like you know. Well, not for sure, but I can guess. They had their second kid. Bill had to work more because of the extra expenses. Laura got mad that he was never home and helped less, so she decided to rely on you. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're not the only one she's using. But she forgot that husbands don't like it when other men help their wives, even if they're friends. I just had to remind her. That's all. You didn't have to get him involved. What's in it for me? I had a goal. I reached it. Personally, I'm satisfied, and I don't care about our family friends' feelings. I added sarcastically. Well, now they definitely won't want to hang out with us anymore. Good. No big loss. We'll manage, or at least I will. And just so you know, if I ever see her complaining to you about her husband and you sympathizing, I'll tell Bill right away, whether you like it or not. Enough is enough. Sorry, Chris muttered. Not enough. I knew it. The fur coat again. That's right. If you were ready to take out a loan for that woman, you can do it for me too. And you should finally understand that the most important person in your life is me. And in mine, it's you. Laura and Bill can deal with their own problems. Get out of the bath, let's talk. Chris said with a smirk and went to the bedroom. A couple of days after that incident, Bill stopped by our place. He apologized for how things had turned out and wanted to have a serious talk with Chris. He didn't like what he saw in Laura's messages with my husband. Now it was Chris's turn to apologize. In the end, he really thought he was just helping a friend's wife and hadn't realized he'd crossed a line. Maybe he shouldn't have gotten so involved. Men usually settle these things more easily. They sat down, talked it out, drew their conclusions, shook hands, and parted ways after a couple of beers. Bill hadn't visited us in ages. He looked different, thinner, clearly overworked. But that didn't excuse Laura's behavior. If she wanted her husband to provide for the family, she should respect his work and efforts. In the end, the guys made up and agreed not to lose touch. But I gently hinted that we probably wouldn't be hanging out as families anymore. I really didn't want to see Laura again, and it seemed she felt the same. A couple of months later, Chris and I had pretty much forgotten about all of it and went back to our usual life. Sometimes he was even surprised by how much free time he had once Laura was out of the picture. No more listening to her complaints, no more driving her around, no more favors. And Chris and I became even closer, especially when he realized I was seriously considering divorce over all this nonsense. He even promised to buy me that fur coat. So the story ended pretty well, except I decided not to rush into having a baby just yet. That's the story, friends. I think many of you will recognize yourselves or someone you know in it. Situations like this happen all the time. When friendship and helping others start to interfere with family happiness, and one partner feels like they're always second best. It's so important to notice these moments and not be afraid to talk about your feelings. Family is, above all, about support, trust, and respect for each other. If your spouse constantly puts someone else's needs above yours, it's time to think and have an honest conversation, so you don't end up with resentment and misunderstanding. What do you think? Is real friendship between a man and a woman possible if both have families? Where is the line that shouldn't be crossed? Have you ever had a similar experience? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss new videos.